For more, we are joined by Roy Beck. He's Executive Director of Numbers USA, a nonprofit organization that favors reducing immigration. And Clarissa Martinez. She's Director of Immigration and National Campaigns for the National Council of La Raza, a nonprofit Hispanic advocacy group. Thank you both for being with us. I'm going to begin with you, Clarissa Martinez, just to get both of you to tell us where you're coming from on this Arizona law. What is your take on what the Arizona legislature did and the governor signed?
We strongly believe that it is the abdication of the federal government of its responsibility over immigration laws that has left state and local governments to grapple with the issue. And what we're seeing is a patchwork of laws emerging that are only adding greater chaos to our already broken system. That's what's happening in Arizona, except that I think in Arizona we've gone beyond the pale, where now we're in a situation where we can practically be codifying the racial profiling of the Latino population in that state, which is 30% of the population. That is just simply not the way to fix or address immigration.
Roy Beck, is this as Ms. Martinez said, beyond the pale?
Well, not at all. It's what we have is a country that has almost 10% unemployment. We have 25 million people who want a full-time job, can't find one. And we have 7 million illegal aliens who are holding construction, manufacturing, transportation, service jobs. So there's 7 million jobs that could be made available to unemployed Americans if we move the illegal aliens out of the jobs. That's what the Arizona law does. It piles on to other laws that they've passed to move these illegal workers out of the state.
So with the passage of the Arizona law, do you think it makes it more urgent or not to get national immigration reform done?
I don't think it makes it more urgent, but I do think Arizona has shown the way. I agree with Clarissa that what we need is not a patchwork. It'd be good if every state would pass the same laws that Arizona did. Then we would have a uniform system. If the federal government would do the same thing as Arizona's done, then we could put 7 million people back to work.
And Ms. Martinez, that's obviously not what you want to see.
Well, it's an interesting proposition to say that every state should condone the racial profiling of their Latino population. In Arizona, again, the majority of Latinos are actually U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents, and now they're going to be compelled they are going to be held suspect in their own communities. I agree we need to fix the broken immigration system, but I also think that voters, frankly, are having their legitimate frustrations manipulated by folks who are giving them false solutions. And this is not the first time that Arizona has gone down this road.
Well, Ms. Martinez, let's turn to what the Senate Democrats introduced here in Washington late this afternoon into the evening, and that is what they say is a tough new national immigration law that would first stress beefing up the borders. We may have lost the audio with Ms. Martinez.
Oh, no, I'm hearing you.
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
I thought you were going to switch to the Senate press conference.
No, I'm sorry. I was asking you to respond because what they've been saying is they think there does need to be national immigration reform.
That's right.
And it needs to start with securing and toughening the borders.
Well, I think that we've been hearing a lot, particularly over the last few months, that we need to strengthen the border. The reality is that if you are interested in restoring the rule of law, the way to do it is through comprehensive immigration reform. You put smart measures in place that protect the border and protect the workplace, but at the same time, we have to fix our legal immigration system because that's what's feeding illegality. Doing only one thing is what we have been doing, and it just simply doesn't work. That's what's put us where we are right now and leads to things like Arizona, which, although the frustrations are legitimate, it just simply doesn't solve the problem.
Mr. Beck, what about the approach that the Democrats today are putting forward in Washington, saying we need national reform, and they're acknowledging that it needs to start with a tougher border security?
Well, but the problem is that they're doing the opposite of what Arizona wants to move unemployed Americans into the jobs illegal aliens have. What was proposed today by the Democrats was to make sure that the illegal aliens have those jobs permanently, because it has a legalization as a part of it. So it's not about opening jobs up. I mean, and jobs are the #1 issue right now. Now, there are some things about toughening up the border, and one thing that's interesting is they require people to carry an ID card, which is one of the criticisms of the Arizona law that requires requires the illegal immigrants to carry ID cards, which, by the way, is a federal law already.
And Ms. Martinez, it is the case that the Democrats' proposal does include this ID requirement.
Well, look, in the past, when we had a legalization program, the reality is that when you are going through that process, you have an ID card. But what Arizona has done is not really about moving people who are unemployed into jobs. What it is that somebody can stop because they're suspected of being in the country illegally. What does that mean? The governor can't define that. The bill didn't define that. And part of the issue here is that people who are deemed to be foreign, people who are held as suspect, are going to be stopped. So I agree we need to fix this problem. We also need to focus our resources. And what Arizona is doing is adding more hay to the haystack.
All right. I want to let you respond very briefly because I do want to get back to the national picture very quickly here.
It's just that the critics are saying that this is going to create all this profiling, but the law is written very carefully to try to prevent that. Now, the governor and the legislature say they don't want it. So, we will find out. I do believe that one effect of all these protests is there's just almost no chance that the police in Arizona are going to racially profile.
Back here to what the Democrats and the Republicans are talking about in Washington. We heard several of the senators today, Democratic senators, say we want the Republicans to join us. We want this to be bipartisan. What do you think the chances are that Republicans are going to come on board and work with the Democrats?
No, I believe Mr. Boehner is correct. For one thing, who wants to run for re-election by saying we're going to give these jobs permanently to these illegal workers? You're going to run for re-election saying how you're going to put Americans back to work. So I don't see any reason why the Republicans would want to jump in, and I don't see a reason why any Democrat in a competitive race would come out in support of this.
Well, that's not what the Democrats say they're doing. They say that what they're
it's all about enforcement.
That's right.
But they say, well, you don't get on a path to citizenship until after the enforcement. But the fact is their proposal gives people legal residence and right to a job immediately, and then later on they get on a path to a green card. But the fact is the legalization happens immediately. And when they say after enforcement is in place, what they mean is after they've spent a certain amount of money. They don't have any criteria for actually stopping illegal immigration.
What about that point, Ms. Martinez, and what do you think the prospects are that anything's going to happen this year at the national level?
Well, I think what the senators have done today with this proposal is to create a solid platform to invite Republicans to the table. We have heard many Republicans saying that the federal government needs to act, and this is an invitation to address the problem together. And frankly, I challenge Mr. Boehner when he says that the government can't do this. He is part of the government. And while Americans across the country are battling unemployment, as Mr. Beck says, and foreclosure and multiple problems at the same time, the least we can expect of our elected leaders is frankly to have the appetite to address the problems that the nation is facing. And Mr. Beck can go on and on talking about the jobs issue. I haven't heard what the real solution is going to be to move us forward. Right now, we have a broken system where an unscrupulous employer is able to pit an American worker against a vulnerable, undocumented worker. What reform will do is make sure that we level that playing field.
We're going to have to wrap it up, but I do want to get a quick forecast from you. Ms. Martinez, you do think there's a chance for legislation this year at the national level?
I think the moral imperative, policy urgency, and politically smart moves are behind immigration reform.
Mr. Beck.
No, there won't be. And I wish there were, because the answer really is to have some kind of a timeout on legal immigration, as well as passing the SAVE Act by the Democratic Congressman Schuler and Senator Pryor.
Roy Beck, Clarissa Martinez, we thank you both.
Thank you very much.